For the League of Women Voters, we are presenting to you today a candidate forum for the 6th Ward. We have 10 of the 11 candidates coming. One had an emergency that was not able to make it, found out last night, but we have 10 candidates that will be here today that are on the way. So I'm going to get started, just kind of introducing you to myself and what we're doing. So, Christopher Hicks, Child United, I grew up in this neighborhood, and Child United started in the parking lot of Yale in September of 2021. It started with a few concerned neighbors because we saw things in this neighborhood that were not consistent with what we were used to. So it was about maybe 10 or 15 of us, September 2021. February 2023, we're at 213 members as of today, and we're in the auditorium. We graduated from the parking lot to the auditorium. Let's give a little applause for that. So, 213 people later, here we are. And what Child United is we're a community, we're a group, a neighborhood of block clubs and different blocks. And we all talk, this Child United is real time. When something happens over here, we know about it instantly. When something happens over here, we do something about it. Our goal is to eventually become self-sufficient because you can't depend on everybody to do everything for you. Sometimes you have to do things for yourself. And that's what our community group is about. And that's why I'm here. That's why you're here. Give yourselves an applause for coming to participate in the process. So, to keep going here, Child United, lights, cameras, action. You'll hear that said many times. Lights so we can see you. Lights in your house, lights around. Bad things happen in the dark. Camera, you got a record of it. And you can see, you can run that tape back. And action, that's the most important thing, action. You have to take action. You can't sit there and see something happen and not do something about it. You can't sit and watch the news every night and just say, oh, it's bad and it's that, and do nothing about it. You can't move to Texas, move to Atlanta, move to Florida, move to all these other places to get away while we're here, and that's what we're doing. So, 213 people from the parking lot in 2021 to right now. There's strength in numbers, and there's power in participation. Remember that. Strength in numbers, power in participation. I could not do anything that I do without my executive council. My left and my right hand. We have Joe Lewis. And Aisha Humphreys, who is our secretary / communications chair. They'll say something here briefly. But these individuals, they have the same drive and the passion that I have for the neighborhood. Everybody's busy. Everybody has something to do. Everybody has a place they could be right now, but instead you chose to be here. You're participating in the process, and that's important. That's essential. We are in challenging times. We're in different times where it's difficult to lead, it's difficult to be a boss, it's difficult to be in charge. We're still experiencing social unrest. We're just coming out of the pandemic. There are a lot of things that are happening right now. It's not normal times. We have to adjust and act accordingly. That being said, thank you for being here this morning. We're going to have a nice, rousing forum. We're in a nice location. We want to thank the NEO staff and everybody for allowing us to use the facility for today. We're going to have our Vice President and our Communications/Treasurer just say brief words, and then we're going to talk about the legal winner voters, and then I'll introduce our moderator for today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We have our candidates truck. The head of the Park Manor Neighbors Association was calling me to inform me that a couple of candidates, she was concerned that they might have run a stop sign or two because they're trying to rush to get here, but it's okay. I'm sure it was nobody on the stage, so they are on the way. My name is Aisha Humphreys. I have been a resident of Chatham for about 4 years now, and born and raised in Chicago, so very, very glad to be part of Chatham United. Really, really appreciate our neighbors, and thank you all so much for being here.
Hello, my name is Joe Lewis Jr., and I'm the Vice President of Chatham United. So I grew up in Roseland. I always mention that, 111th, Indiana.
No response.
Just for that response that I just got. So I grew up in Roseland, 111th, Indiana. And for those that know that area, when I grew up there, I was born in 1970. When I grew up in Roseland, it was a booming community. Roseland had Yankees, they had Woolworth, they had Kmart's, they had all kinds of stores. And it was a place that, and for those that don't know, Roseland was actually named Roseland because originally the whole community was consisting of roses. There were roses everywhere. It was 99% white population that lived there. And then my parents moved there in 1970, and the white flight began. And if you go to Roseland now, we all know it's not an area that you would want to live in. Why? Because of the white flight. Our residents moved in, and then they typically started to destroy the neighborhood. And if you go to Roseland now, it's not an area that you really want to be around. My parents still live there to this day. But it's not an area that is booming like it is in Chatham. So I moved here in 2016, and I immediately said that I wanted to get involved with the community. I was blessed to meet Brother Hicks. He was the first person that I met on the block. I lived on 84 from Michigan. And at that time, he talked about us, forming a group. And he said, we're gonna have a meeting at Neal's school, and we're gonna talk about it. And this was 2021. And we started off, there were approximately 8 of us. We met in the parking lot, 8 to 15. We met in the parking lot of Neal's school. And we talked about issues. And we said, well, we want to expand. We want to grow even more. We started the group meeting. So now we have 213 members in the group meeting. And for those that are on the group meeting, as you know, everything happens in real time. They'll let you know, the street lights are out or the alley lights are out. We all call 311. Within 24 hours, those street lights are back on. If someone happens to have their vehicle stolen, real time, the Kias, we all know about the Kias and the Hondas that are being stolen at a constant rate throughout the city of Chicago. In Chatham United, when it happens, someone makes the call, immediately police are on point, and we've actually caught some of the offenders. So anytime things happen, it's good that we have strength in numbers. So we're glad that everyone came out. As we now know that we're transitioning from Alderman Sawyer to our potential candidates at this time, we're glad that everyone came out and has a voice. So the members of Chatham, I would implore you, get on the group meet because it does work. Throughout the day, there's messages and there are people that are posting about things that are happening in the community. Actually, Chris and Aisha, they also post whenever we have different events going on. So it's a great tool to make sure that you're part of that group. So we definitely want to thank everybody for coming out. And as the candidates are coming in, thank you for attending today. And God bless you.
There is seating up front. There are a few seats up front. So this wouldn't be possible without the League of Women Voters. And brief description, the League of Women Voters of Chicago is a 100-year-old, nonpartisan organization working to protect and expand voting rights and ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. We empower voters and defend democracy through advocacy and education. And today, from the League of Women Voters, we have representing Catherine Margites, our moderator for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you. We love being here. This is wonderful. We see the chairs are starting to fill in. That's a good sign. But what I thought I'd do while we're waiting for the last candidates to arrive is to go over some of the ground rules. You all have a program, a handout, I hope. Some of you might need to share. Aisha at the back, you want to grab a few programs, and some of the volunteers can make sure everyone seated has one. And that basically what I want to just highlight from that for you today is please, right now, turn your mobile devices off. At the very least, make sure the sound is off. If you could all do that, it would really help a lot. And then another thing to know, the audience, you are asked to withhold your applause and other expressions of support or disagreement. The only time for really applauding is at the beginning and at the very end. So no jeering, no yay, nothing like that, okay? The question response times will be indicated by me, the moderator, and the candidates will be allowed to finish a sentence. A short sentence. There are 10 of you here. It's going to be so difficult to get anything in with all of them answering. It's going to be, but we're doing it. We've got it worked out. The committee's done a really great job. And then they will be, you will be able to see from these paddles. Can you see the paddles everybody has up front here? Do you see those paddles? That one says 30 seconds. And there's a red one. Show them that red one. That's the big one. That's the important one. Hello. And Tony, let them know what happens if they are not compliant. Tony, can you call Tony the bell? We got to keep it moving because there's so many of you. Usually we're a little nicer, but we're going to be very strict because we want all of you to be able to get what you want to say in. And then it's important to know that there won't be audience questions today. We normally do that. We usually have them on cards, and the moderator reads them. Chatham United went out and asked people questions, so we've incorporated them into the actual program. However, you will have an opportunity to ask the candidates questions right afterwards. As soon as we close it down, they can come down and mingle, hand out their literature, and answer questions directly. All right? It looks like we're only missing one person. Are we missing just one?
No, two.
Two? I think that we shall go ahead with opening statements, which will be 90 seconds. And we'll just come back because we have to get started, don't we? Okay, and the opening statements, they've been asked, along with whatever else they want to say why they want to be an alderman and what their qualifications are. So we will start. And by the way, it is Sylvester Baker, who at the last minute was not able to come. So just want you to know that he is a candidate for this office. Okay, but we will start with Kirby Bergens. And these names are as they appear on the ballot. if you want to correct me and change it to your favorite name, that's good. Oh, you're good. Excellent. Okay. So 90 minutes, and you got your mic. It's all good. And let me just tell you now, you do have to hold these fairly close. See what happens if you don't hold them close. Right up here. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I want to first start off by thanking everyone that have anything.
Let me be annoying one more time. It's really hard to see you. Could you, for longer segments, stand? That would be wonderful.
Hello, everyone. I want to first start off by thanking anyone and everyone that had anything to do with putting this candidates forum together. I want to start off by thanking you guys for coming out and participating in this form of democracy, and also thanking our hosts for allowing us to utilize their venue. My name is Kirby Burgess. I am a middle school science teacher, a public servant, a community activist, and a well-rounded resident of the 6th Ward. Why am I running? It's because first, as a community activist, I have dedicated my life to service. And so I can't think of no other way to continue this service than to be your alderman of the 6th Ward. What we have to understand is there's a lot at stake in this election. Crumbling infrastructure, out of control crime, and an ever-increasing need for housing affordability. But the fundamental question that you should be asking yourself is, who sees you, who knows you, who will show up, and most certainly who will fight for you? Because we are 9 days away from early voting, and we gotta get this one right, you guys. So make sure on February 28th that you punch 55 so we can get effective change involved in this 6th Ward.
Thank you, Kirby Bergens. And now we'll hear from Tavares Briggs.
Good afternoon, my name is Tavares.
Oh,
Not a problem. Many people
Here's one.
don't get it correct. That's okay. Not sure if I'm too close to the speaker or not. But I feel like I'm at home in this gym room. My name is Tavares Briggs. I am an educator, resident of what's considered Park Manor / Chatham, father, a son, and also a member of the local school council for Rebels Elementary School. Very passionate about education. I'm trying to keep this, short and simple. People ask, why do I run? And it's because I want to be a voice for the voiceless. Every day I go to work, very passionate about working with young people and families. This is what I do. This is what I've been doing for the last 14 years. When I consider working in the trenches, working with outside entities and organizations, being a voice for mothers, being a voice for fathers, being a voice for students that don't have. So we want to come in. I want to come in and work with the community. I want to come in and be a voice for the people who don't have a voice, and that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, Tavares Briggs. And now, Patrick Brutus. Do you go by Patrick?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. And let's thank the League of Women Voters. Give her a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thanks for the host. I'm Patrick Brutus. I'm a resident of the community. I live over on 76 in Champlain. My wife and I and our family moved here over 10 years ago. And so just like you, I made the investment to live in a wonderful community called Chatham. When I was a younger kid, my church used to be at 90th and Halsted, and we used to sneak over here when we started the drive, and we would hang out on 75th Street and kind of hang out and eat over there. And I said, I'm going to live over there one day because this is a very stable, black, middle-class community. And so just like you, I made the choice to move over here. My girls, I have 3 kids in the CPS district. My son is a junior right now. He attended Leonard, who's now in the district. My girls, they are both going to be alumni of McDade. And so I'm fighting for them. I'm fighting for your children too, fighting for some of your grandchildren. This is a wonderful community. This glass certainly is half full. Okay, this is a half glass full community. We have a lot of opportunity here. I have worked for the city for almost 20 years, over 15 years. But I've worked, in the public for over 25 years. I've always worked for you. I work for you still. And no matter how this thing turns out, and I am working really hard to be your alderman, I want to serve. I'm taking that step. But however this turns out, I'm going to still be working for you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just like you. I'm right here. I made my investment, raising my family here, And I'm looking forward to the questions today, and welcome to you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Patrick Brutus. And next, Paul C. Bryson Sr., and that's what's on the ballot. Would you like me to call you Paul Bryson? Or sir?
Paul. Good afternoon, everyone. Paul Bryson. Currently, I live in Chatham. I've raised 4 children in the Park Manor neighborhood. My oldest is 39, my youngest is 29. I've been serving this ward, as many of you know, 8 years as your ward superintendent, and these last 4 years as the alderman's assistant. So I've been available in serving this 6th ward for 12 years. It's been a blessing for me. I am a servant at heart, so I'm desiring now to move into the position of alderman. One reason, I know this ward, and this ward knows me. I've been on every street, just about every alley, and I've communicated with well over 5,000 people easily. And over these 12 years, I've personally completed, many of you I know have called 311. I've personally completed well over 5,000 service requests. I've handled the snow programs, the weed cutting, the street sweeping. All of these things that the ward needs, I've been performing that service. So I desire to take it to the next step because I feel I have that much more to offer. I know all of the various department heads. I've dealt with all of the commissioners. I have the connections, and they've been established over these years with my work under the current alderman, who I'm sure you all know is running for mayor now. So with that said, I feel that I am the best choice in candidates. No need for us to go back to step 1 and start all over again. We need to keep moving forward. We still have a lot of work to do. And my cell number
Thank you
has
very
been
much.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. First thing first, we were late because there was another forum literally at the same time. So I thank you for your patience. The tardiness was no sense of rudeness at all. And we did it without breaking no laws. Because it's a lot that comes back in.
And to introduce yourself, on the ballot you are William E. Hall,
Absolutely.
correct? And we'll call you William Hall today?
That's fine.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm running because, number one, we need to see something better. We are running together. We are running, number one, to make this neighborhood brighter. It's dark. President Kennedy asked the question, what are you going to do for your country? Not what's the country going to do for you. And we are going to build quality schools. This gym is just a reminder of what we can do inside of the school, because right now in the hall is the first graders. We're curious about life, so we are going to bring resources to the kids. We're not going to wait, and we're not going to beg. We're going to fight for what's ours. But in the meantime, we are going to build, thirdly, a neighborhood where seniors are respected and seniors have services brought to them in a place where they can go. We lost values as if our seniors don't matter anymore. We are running so that on February the 28th, we can have an intergenerational war. I am a product of Dr. Clark, Miss Williams, Miss Beverly, my daddy, Mr. Smith. All 6 had their hand on helping my parents raise me. And if it worked for me, I believe it can work for the now and the next generation. We are running together on February the 28th so that we can make sure that our homes are not snatched with higher taxes. Number 2, by invaders that don't look like us. And then number 3, by violence. So that we can have police officers that serve and protect, and so that we can have the mental support for those who are distressed that are causing us unrest. February 28th, let's build something great. Pitch the beginning.
Okay, thank you, William Hall. And next we'll hear from Aja Kearney.
Good afternoon. My name is Aja Kearney. Thank you all so much for coming out today to the Candidates Forum. Thank you for the opportunity to stand before you. I ask for your vote on February 28th. I am running because I am a wife, a mother, and I'm a public servant. My story starts as a young child. My mom, who's here in the audience, I brought me along with her to various community meetings. She worked for the late Alderman Lorraine Dixon, and in that, in her position, I was able to see my mom work hand in hand with the community, talk to constituents about their concerns, work hard for them. And it just drew a love for me. Under the leadership of the late John H. Stroger, our committeeman, I learned about grassroots organizing. Same with the Reverend Dr. Leon Finney. I've worked at his church as well, making sure that we get out the vote, that we support candidates that are for our community, that are for us, and that will provide us with the services that we need. It is just a love for me. I have a daughter who is a CPS student. This is very important to me as well, to be there for her. I work on the LSC. I serve on the LSC, the PAC, and the PTA, making sure that my voice, that I hear the voice of other parents, other students, the teachers, as well as making sure that my voice is heard as well. Making sure that I'm at the forefront of everything that is going on with CPS to make sure our students have a better place. I just thank you all so much for this time and this opportunity to stand before you. Punch 59, stand in line, and I'll make it worth your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Aja Kearney. And next is Sharon E. Pincham. And can we lose the E for the rest of the day?
No, just Sharon.
Just Sharon.
That's right, thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. It is wonderful to see so many people who are involved and want to see this ward move forward. My name is Sharon Pincham. I want to punch 60 because I believe I'm the most qualified candidate. My late father-in-law, the Honorable Judge R. Eugene Pincham, used to say that in politics and in public service, the perspective of vision and integrity are most important, and I do take that to heart. I have over 20 years experience in managing a statewide program for independent living for individuals with disabilities to be able to have home services in their home. That program was a $300 million program and served 30,000 individuals. In addition, for the last 4 years, I used to work for State Senator L.G. Sims as his constituent services coordinator. Heard from probably many of you in this room because this is also part of the 17th district. We listen to you, we try to work with your problems, but you know what? Oftentimes, I heard from you as 6th Ward residents who were concerned because they couldn't get in touch with their local office in order to resolve the issues of the city. So my reason for running is to be that voice, to listen to you, to hear from you, to make sure that we can work together in order to make a better ward. I have ideas. I know you have ideas. I want to hear them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon Pincham. And now we'll hear from Richard A. Wooten. And there's an A for the rest of that.
We can lose A. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank Chatham United for putting on this here, wonderful forum. You all done an outstanding job, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for being the moderators. My name is Richard A. Wooten. I'm going to drop the A for the day. And I am a United States Army veteran. I served in the Desert Storm War. After coming home from the Desert Storm War, I signed up to take the Chicago Police Department test. And I was honored and blessed to have been hired by the Chicago Police Department, where I served 23 years. 10 years in the Inglewood community and 13 years in this community here. A lot of you know me as the beat facilitator or the beat liaison officer that hosted community meetings. I'm also a pastor. And my passion in my pastoral position is what balanced me out through my position as a police officer. Between the two of those, it showed me how to become closer to the needs of the people. It showed me how to work with the people. And in doing that, I took the Chicago Police Department from being number 17 and being the worst organized district to being number 2 in the city with the most well-organized in the district, in the city. And the way I did that is because I engaged people and I felt the passion of the people. It was not by myself. What I'm here to tell you all today is that if you punch 52, because you know what to do, I will be your next alderman, and we will engage and have a working relationship. Why am I running? Simply because for the past 12 years, we have been going in the wrong direction. This community used to be one of the most prominent communities, and now it's become the most high crime ridden community. Punch 52, you know what to do.
Okay, thank you, Richard Wooten. Do we have a candidate in the back? Oh, you did come out. Great. And
Kimberly Agon.
Kimberly Agon. And
Attorney Kimberly Agon.
okay. And we've asked, you have 90 seconds, and we've asked in your remarks if you will tell us why you want to be an alderman and what your qualifications are. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Attorney Kimberly Agon. My punch number is 62, and that will be important by the end of this speech. I am running for alderman because I am tired of the way that we are living in our ward, and I'm sure that many of you are too. We have got a historic ward. We have got strong people, strong ideals, strong culture, but right now the leadership is not reflecting who we are. I have studied and learned what I need to know in order to be the alderman of this ward, from my political science background to becoming an attorney, and my work as a public policy attorney in the Illinois Senate, the City of Chicago, as well as the Department of Public Health. This is something that is my life's calling, and I believe that right now we need someone who is more than a friend, but we need someone who actually knows how to do the job. It is time for us to rise to the level of the people in our community. And I know that the first thing that we need to do is have a plan for our community to get rid of the chaos that is taking place in our community right now, where any business can come in, any liquor store can come in, anyone can come in and do anything here because there's no vision, there's no plan, and there's no leadership. I'm Attorney Kimberly Agon. My punch number is 62 because I will be working for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly Agon. Before we go on to the next segment, let me make sure, has Barbara Ann Bunville shown up? I don't want to go past if she's like moving this way. Okay, well, we're going to move on. Now, mostly we will be asking questions in the same topic. 5 will answer one, 5 more will answer the other. However, the community unanimously, everybody brought up this question, so we're going to let you all ask it, and we're going to write down. And we will start with Tavares Briggs, and here's the question, and you have 45 seconds to answer it. Public safety and gun violence are among the top concerns in the ward and throughout Chicago. What realistically could you do as an alderperson and member of the city council to reduce gun violence and improve public safety? We'd like to hear in the short term and in the long term. So, Tavares, you first.
Thank you for that. My mantra is this, and I'll say this, and I know maybe they get tired of hearing it today. You have to sow better seeds if you want to reap better harvest. You know, I think of any candidate up there had an answer to resolve public safety, they may not be running for alderman, they may be running for something else. But at the end of the day, we have to invest in the things that we want to see change. And that's what I've been rooted in. That's what I find to be very important. So let me be more specific when I say we have to invest. I believe we have to invest in our housing, healthcare, jobs, education, after-school programs, environmental elements. And at the end of the day, there's something that I told the mayor when I had an opportunity to speak to her. There's only one place that I know that we're going to have our future victims and our future offenders, and that's the classroom, and that's the zone that we need to flood. You know, we have to be able to give our young people the resources that they need in order to see something different on 79th Street, in order to see something different on 87th Street, 63rd, and any other street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, Patrick Hughes, please. 45 seconds.
Thank you very much. Quick answer. I've released my public safety plan, which calls for us to, day one in my Ready Day One agenda, is to reduce the crime, work with our local police to reduce crime. We also want to reform the violent offenders. We also want to restore our community, but I also want to reinvest in local service providers like Charles Perry at the Kindness Campaign, or Amita Matthews with Pause for Peace. We got people right here who know our people. They know our challenges. They are culturally competent. So on the short-term answer, what we can do quickly is we can try to initiate that amend the budget, bring some money, and activate some of our local service providers to help reduce the crime in the neighborhood. We'll have a longer answer, hopefully.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Paul Bryson.
Said how many seconds do I have?
45.
All right, I'm gonna run through this.
Yeah, I know. I apologize right now to all of you, but we're trying to get y'all in.
And it'll rotate.
Deterrent is our starting point. We can't stop crime, we can't predict it. Deterrent is our starting point. We can't stop crime, we can't predict it, and we can't stop it from occurring. However, we can put a system in place to deter some of this activity. I've developed a 5-point plan that will help us deter some of the crime, such as better lighting, our homes being addressed correctly so that when the police need to respond, they actually know where they're going and they're not searching for a location. Cameras. I envision cameras pretty much on every block with a sign that says under camera surveillance when you enter that block, which may make you go somewhere else.
Thank
So-
you. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Trouble. Don't give me in trouble. Just teasing. Okay. Thank you, Paul Bryson. And next is Kimberly Egoan. 45 seconds.
Thank you. What I want to see, especially in a community like ours where we are law-abiding citizens, I want us to not be taken advantage of and feel like we are in an urban terrorist state. And one of the ways in which we can do that is that we can start catching some criminals. When something happens to you or me, it's like the crime is taken as a joke and nothing happens. No one's found, no one's caught, no one's arrested. We need to ensure that we are being policed to the same degree, not just occupied, but policed to the same degree as other communities. That's the first stop. Long term, we need investment of all types. We have none of the resources coming to match the tax dollars that we have going out. In many cases, people are in desperate situations and have very little hope. So let's resource our communities the way that we used to have resources and activities in our communities.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, and next we have William Hall.
What's the question one more time?
One more time. Absolutely. Public safety and gun violence are among the top concerns in the ward and throughout the city. What realistically could you do as an alderperson and member of the city council to reduce gun violence and improve public safety in the short term and in the long term?
Well, the first thing we want to talk about when it comes to gun violence is this. There is not a gun manufacturing factory in Chicago. There's a new gun called the JR-17, which looks like the AR-17. It is targeted towards kids. We need every ordinance on the book to make sure that there's no access to guns. Number two, we going down to Springfield to continue to get access to capital for our violence intervention and prevention programs. Then we are coming back up to Chicago to go across the hall to make sure that we have mental health funding so that our mental health professionals can accompany our violence intervention professionals that are in the streets. And then lastly, we're going to invest in brighter blocks. We going back down to Springfield to ask Senator Sims, ask Representative Nick Smith for money in the capital budget. This idea of begging on the fifth floor will not build our community. Last but not least, we're going to invest in block clubs with micro grants so that block clubs are empowered not just in theory, but with funds to make communities brighter, better, and funded.
Thank you very much, William. Next, Aja Kearney, and 45 seconds.
Thank you. For me, like I stated before, I am a grassroots organizer. So for me, it starts first in our neighborhoods. Building our relationships with our neighbors, going block by block, door to door, making sure that we are accountable for one another. I think it's important for us to start right at home, right in our communities, right on our block, watching out and looking out for one another. Within that, making sure that we build a partnership with law enforcement, making sure that they are present, that they understand what the issues are, working collectively to come to resolutions for those issues and those concerns. And then working with our young people, making sure that young people have access to activities, making sure that they have access to trades and opportunities to be able to grow and have jobs so that they can be productive and productive citizens in our communities and not out carjackings and things of that nature. We need to make sure that we also invest in and support mental health facilities as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Aja. And next, Sharon Peacham. Thank you.
First of all, an immediate solution is we need to redeploy our police to the high crime areas. Now, police do not, prevent crime, but they do solve crime. Excuse me. They can get a better investigatory rate if they can get to the crime sooner. The next thing we need to do is to take our young people and give them a 21st century education in the fields that help prevent crime, drone pilots, cybersecurity. That way they can be helpful and be able to do the things that they need to do. We also need a pipeline for recruitment for our first responders. Offer a public safety curriculum in Chicago public schools, as well as that's not offered in the 6th Ward. There's also a community college curriculum in the college deal, not in the ward. I have a stop sign.
Yeah, you do. Thank you for stopping. Okay. Thank you, Sharon. And finally, and then Richard. No, we'll go back. But Richard first. And then we'll go. We're doing this.
They won't hear me speak.
Go ahead, Richard. They want to hear from you.
Safety and gun violence. The first thing we need to focus on is that $100 million budget money that the mayor has put into place to actually provide prevention as well as public safety to communities. We need to use that money to engage the power of the people, block clubs, community organizations, get them actively involved in actually making their community safe. We need to also look at making sure that we can put the foot patrol and the bike patrol back active so they're not just walking up and down our main streets, but they're moving around within our residential communities. We need to increase funding for youth and ex-offenders programs so we can actually provide jobs and opportunities to get them off the street. We also need to actually support the tougher gun laws. That's a long-term effect because tougher gun laws, as we actually see the state already, the governor and the state senators, and they've already put things in place already, but it's tied up right now, but we need to support those gun laws. We need to work with the commander. I will work with the commander in a strategic way to target problems in our communities so we can hold these people accountable.
Thank you. And yes, back to the beginning. Kirby Perkins, thank you.
As someone who lost their 16-year-old cousin in a shooting in River Oaks Mall, I understand the importance of treating gun violence as what it is, a national health crisis. We must treat it exactly the way we treated COVID and any other thing. Another thing we must do is most certainly support treatment, not trauma. This will help with us with getting those little crimes off our streets. Another thing is investing in our education. We see that 70% of the inmates in prison cannot read on a 4th grade level. We need to tackle that. Another thing is investing in the human infrastructure. This will help us. This is what it looks like when we treat gun violence as what it is. And so I'm eager to stand here with you guys and come up with solutions to these problems that we see on an everyday basis.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we will have 3 yes or no questions. We'll be, just so you all know what I'm not doing here, so scratch your heads. I'll be moving it around so the same people aren't starting. So it'll be kind of moving, and we've got 2 groups, so it'll get very confusing because I'll be moving the groups and I'll be moving inside of the groups. Wish me luck. However, also, because there are so many of you, we, and audience has questions, what we're going to do is we're going to have some yes or no questions. Now, these yes or no questions, you can answer yes, you can answer no, or we'll leave a not sure. And though there will be no time to talk during this segment, you will be able to address it at the very end in your closing statements, or if you finish early on another question. Okay, so here we go. And do they need to stand up for you to see them? Can you see hands? Standing? All right, the first question, should the Chicago Police Department move forward with the Criminal Enterprise Information System that is the new gang database. All those in favor of them moving forward can stand. All those in favor, all those opposed, stand. Okay, it's a yes or no. Are you in favor of them restarting the gang database? If your answer is yes, you are in favor. Now is your time to stand up. Okay, if you do not want them to restart the gang database, now is your time to stand up. Okay. And it looks like we have a unanimous, so there are no not sure's. Thank you. Okay. The second, we got it right. Okay, the second is an initiative that came from some young people, and it's called the Peace Book. The Peace Book supports the development and implementation of youth-led, non-carceral, and non-policing initiatives for improving community safety and health, especially for youth. So the question is, are you in favor of passing the Peace Book ordinance? If you are, please stand now. If you are not in favor of the Peace Book ordinance, looks like you're all in agreement. Excellent. We're just getting you all on record, okay? Yeah, exercise, exactly. Okay, third, yes and no question. Do you support the treatment, not trauma ordinance? A crisis response program that dispatches mental health professionals and an EMT to mental health emergency calls instead of police officers. That is the treatment, not. All those in favor of the treatment, not trauma ordinance? Excellent. I don't even have to repeat. Thank you. Can you all hear me okay? Is it lower than theirs? I'll hold it real close. It was doing some feedback a minute ago. So, okay, very good. Okay, so now we're moving on to a set of 2 questions, and I will start with the second group this time, and the second group, and I will start with somebody in the second group. So, AJ, you will be the first person to answer this question. All right. TIF stands for Tax Increment Financing, and it is collected from homes and businesses in TIF areas. This money can be used to improve infrastructure or provide other incentives to encourage economic development in an area. How would you plan to spend the ward's TIF money over the next 4 years? How will you engage the community to set priorities? And AJ, you're first for this one.
I think it's important to note that there are some concerns with the way that TIF resources have been used in the past in our city. I think it's also important to note that the voice of the community needs to be heard in making decisions on what's important for our community. So for me, I would like to make sure that I create an opportunity for the voices of our community to be heard, and that those resources are put to the use that our community wants to see. We want to continue to grow economic development in our community. We want to make sure that our community is growing and thriving, and for me, it is very important to make sure that your voice is heard, and that whatever it is that you all want to see done, that time is taken, and that we work together as a community to make sure that those resources are put to good use within our community.
Thank you, AJ Kearney. Next, Sharon Kincham. 45 seconds.
45 seconds. TIF has been a mystery to us, for everyone out here probably, in reference to how it's utilized and where it goes. One of the most important things I think that we have to implement is participatory budgeting. That's where you sit down with residents and say, this is the $1.5 million menu money, and this is where the TIF money goes for our community and for our ward. That has to be something that's known by you. We need to know what each other's priorities are so that we can make concrete decisions. So that's what I would do. I'm not a TIF fan right now because we haven't seen the benefit of it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Next, Richard Wooten. 45 seconds.
Well, we know TIF actually really benefits doesn't benefit the community because when you actually look at the TIF, you maintain at the base level for the next 23 years. So, and then also TIF is actually managed by the mayor. So the mayor is the one who determines how that TIF money is going to be spent. So we really don't have any benefits from a TIF. But when you talk about menu budget, a participatory budget, as far as the menu money. So we do have that latitude. But as far as TIFs, I'm not a big fan of TIFs.
Okay, thank you, William. And now we go to Kimberly Engelman. Same question, 45 seconds.
Okay, so when we talk about tips, and I think you did a good job of explaining that, the idea that any increases that happen in property taxes over that 23-year period go into a fund, and that fund is used by the mayor. The mayor gets to decide how that money is used. It is a mystery how the money is being used. TIFs were for blighted communities. We've got TIF districts all over the city of Chicago and downtown. Does that look like a blighted community to anyone here? Absolutely not. So it was meant for communities, in some cases, some parts of our community. We need to revamp what is going on with TIF, and we all have to get smarter about how it is being used and how our dollars are being used. So I think we all agree, I won't speak for everyone, that there has to be a revision in what a TIF does and how the money is going to benefit our tax dollars. It's going to benefit us.
Thank you, Kimberly. Wonderful. And next, William Hall.
Yes. One of the things I would like to see is more transparency. TIF is a mystery situation. And so what ends up happening is we put TIFs in spaces and the mayor calls developers and the mayor become friends, and then they end up developing stuff that we don't want, number one. Number two, jobs that should be led by us are absent. And then thirdly, we're still being knocked over the head with extra taxes. I say at the end of the day, that's Chicago politics. We need to go downstate to ask for money in the capital budget. Then let's fly over to DC, where we just hired Jonathan Jackson as our congressman and put on the table what we want to see developed in our community. If a TIF dollar comes in the community and it takes away, then that's not TIF money, that's extortion. And that's what we see time and time again. Our pain is being used for pockets that don't look like ours. So no, I'm not for a TIF if it's not transparent and it's not what the people want.
Thank you. No, we're not doing that. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to the next group, and this time we will be starting with Patrick Brutus, and we have a new question. You won't be surprised what it is. Alders also have control over menu money, discretionary funds that can be used on the ward's needs. The amount is about $1.5 million. How do you plan on spending the ward's menu money? Would you be willing to have meetings with community groups and residents of the ward to discuss spending the menu money? 45.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be in favor of including the voices of the people that we're trying to represent to spend this little money. Okay, this is $1.5 million. It should actually be 5, because there are too many projects that require this money to be spent on. Potholes, speed bumps, lighting. But what I'm going to do is, on my first day, I'm going to make sure that we reallocate some of this money to light up the community. We've got some dark blocks, we've got some dark spaces that are causing a concern for our residents, our seniors. Everybody is not safe at the doorstep. You're not safe on the corner. We've got people jumping people all over the ward. We've got to improve safety. So in my first 6 months here, I'm going to reallocate some of the menu money. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to include you guys in the voices. And just real quick on another issue, tip 101. We have got to share the information. We need a tip 101 briefing.
Yeah, no, good try. Okay, next is Paul Bryson, and the same question, 45 seconds.
Well, I've been dealing with the current alderman for many years as it relates to that money, how it gets used. Now, what I can tell you is it's very disproportionate based on the needs. We can spend almost $200,000 to resurface one street. So $1.5 million, and we have well over 450 blocks, many which need work. You have to pick and choose where to spend that money. I want us to press for that money to be allocated where it's needed. The north side, I love it. Their beautification with their money. We have real work we need to do with our money in our wards. So $1.5 million isn't nearly enough for the 6th ward. So I want to press
Thank you
to
very
get
much.
more.
Wonderful, thank you. And now we go to Kirby Bergen. 45 seconds, same question.
When you buy homes in a community, you invest in that community. And so as your next alderman, I want to make sure that you get a return on your investment. So the first thing we need to do is understand that the alderman's got a raise this year, the mayor's got a raise this year. Where is our raise? This is how we can raise, but I agree with Patrick Brutus. We do need to raise that menu money. When you're talking about lighting up a block and then fixing the streets, you out of menu money already. So what the first thing we need to do is advocate for more money from the menu money, and also to talk about the tips. We do need to reform tips. That money needs to go back to the park district and back to the schools. And so 2 things that I want to do is make sure that I'm keeping communities involved and connecting when it comes down to the tip money and getting your voice.
Thank you very much, thank you, Kirby. Next, Tavares Briggs, same question, 45 seconds.
Absolutely. I piggyback off what Paul Bryson said. You have $200,000 just to pave the street. I think it costs $250,000 just to replace the streetlights on one block. And I think what really needs to be lit is the community. The community has to feel like they are part of the process at the end of the day, because as it stands right now, I know people are speaking about money being increased, which not one individual up here can change. We have to work with what we get. So that comes with educating the community. That comes with making the community feel like they're part of the process. Services is a big part of what needs to change. And my days in Alderman will make sure that at least services are provided, making sure that our pals, our neighborhood is clean, and that we can get the things that need to be done. But you have to work with the community. You have to be able to listen to the people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tavares. Okay, now we go on to another set of 2 questions. These also will be for 45 seconds. I will move back to this group of, I don't know, 4 or 5, I don't know how many you guys are. And by the way, I did want to announce that Barbara Ann Abundle is not well and will not be joining us, just so you know. All right, so we'll be starting with Paul Bryson for the first question, if you're ready. What would you do to strengthen, sustain, and attract businesses to our commercial districts? 45 seconds.
So, as your alderman, I'm going to read so I can get through this. I will establish working relationships with the businesses that are already in our ward, many of which I know already. We need to ensure that every business in the ward services the residents with the compliance that the city requires, cleanliness, and consumers. But we must clean up our ward to make it more attractive if we want businesses to come in our ward. No one comes over here and litters and fly dumps and puts trash everywhere. That's from within. So the mindset has to change somehow of the people. And we have to, I've actually got a plan to start a no littering campaign. But if we don't make our house look appealing, people are not going to want to come here. And that applies to the vacant houses, the vacant lots. We have a lot of work to do, and we're going to continue with it.
Wonderful. And next is Kirby Bergens. Does anyone need me to repeat this question? Yeah. Okay. What would you do to strengthen, sustain, and attract business to our commercial districts?
Well, it's all about, like I said, it's all about making sure that homeowners get a return on their investment. So cleaner communities, safer communities, bring businesses. One thing we must also do is support our small business. They are the anchor to our economy. Another thing we must do is support. We see that they are extending 95th train station. Well, what are they extending it to? We need to support the South Suburban Cargo Airport. This will bring economic business and create an economic engine. Another thing is making sure that we limit the tax breaks to landlords that have these vacant storefronts. This will help bring life back into Chicago's blighted community strips. So let's work together to bring economic development into our ward.
Thank you very much, Kirby. Okay, next, Tavares Briggs.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I can. What would you do to strengthen, sustain, and attract businesses to the ward's commercial districts?
This is something I feel very passionate about. I live right off 75th Street right now. This is something as a parent, you want to be able to see businesses come. You want your family to be able to put money back into the community. But like some other people said, I'm not a part of government in this world right now. Just as a community member, we have to clean up. We have to clean up. That's what's going to attract development to come. If you show people the area, I think, as an alderman, these are things that I would like to focus on, things that I have power over. Utilizing the tools of the entire government to be able to make sure that those service requests, those trees is being cut, making sure every element, every power that I have as the alderman, those things get done. And that's what I plan to do as the alderman to attract business to those corridors. Thank you.
Thank you, Tavares. Next, Patrick Brutus.
So I'm fortunate to be the city planner right now, and my management areas include Auburn, Gresham, Inglewood, and right here in Chatham. We have a destination. Believe it or not, people are coming here to this community to shop and dine and buy food and stuff on 75th Street. But we can also get 71st Street, 69th Street, 87th Street, the small part of 83rd that's commercial. We got State Street as well, but also we have Halsted and Inglewood. We can activate all this stuff, and in large part, due to my efforts at the Department of Planning, we're seeing that activity right now. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with this American Recovery Program money that's coming to Chicago and being invested in through the Chicago Recovery Grant Program. If you own a business, if you are trying to do something right now, buy a vacant lot, buy a building, and bring your business to our community, please, right now is the time to apply for that money.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. Takes me a moment sometimes. Okay, we're moving to the other group, and we will be starting with Sharon Ephraim. And here is your question, and it too is 45 seconds. How do you propose to attract young professionals and families into the neighborhood? Can I repeat that? How do you propose to attract young professionals and families into the neighborhood?
I guess I start off, as always, with education. When young families are looking to move into a community, they want to look at the benefit of the education for their children. Our schools are not performing as they should, and they're not getting the opportunities that they should in order to be accountable in our community after this happens. The second thing is partly the answer to the question that was just asked. We need to clean up our community and make sure that we have cleanliness where people can come and actually look at us and see that we're doing what we need to do for ourselves. The third thing is we need to get these dilapidated buildings that are boarded up, fixed up, and on the rolls for taxes. How do we do that? With public education, we have programs for we have programs for constructions, and we also have those programs in the community colleges. We need to nail those programs.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, next up is Richard Wooten. 45 seconds.
Repeat the question.
I can. How do you propose to attract young professionals and families into the neighborhood?
Okay, we need to focus on three things: education, economic development, and community engagement. If we focus on education, giving a quality education where these families can feel safe, that they knowing that their kids are going to be able to actually receive a quality education, that's going to enable them to actually compete in the future. Then they will actually come. But in order for us to actually do that, we have to actually increase our economic development. Isolas, Army of Lose, Chatham Foods with stakeholders in our community. And we need to bring black businesses back into our community so they can actually begin to see a community come alive again. Community engagement. We have to tap into the community so we can actually ensure that our community owners are taking responsibility, keeping our communities clean, looking out and making sure that our communities are safe. We have to actually ensure that we all are in part of making sure that we're able to welcome in new families.
Thank you, Richard. And now we go to Kimberly Ergowan. That's a question?
Just quickly, I'm sorry.
Sure, not a problem. This is easy because these are short ones.
Okay.
How do you propose to attract young professionals and families into the neighborhood?
Okay, and I wanted to make sure we weren't just talking about new, because we have got generations of people living in this community. And what we need to do is definitely educate people on how to keep grandma's house and how to keep these beautiful homes and these beautiful properties in our families. We also must ensure that our schools we have to stop with the experimentation with black education. Our schools have been experimented to the degree that people don't want to come to the community because they know that their child is going to be in little more than a warehouse in most instances. Let's rebuild the schools, which is the first step for young families to want to stay in our community. And then also, let's have more offerings, more businesses, more opportunities for people to work in the community. Let's give people capital so that they can open their own business and hire other residents in our community. And we will attract professionals and families to our communities.
Thank you, Kimberly. Next up, William Hall.
Yes, one of the things that I do want to say is that we did this. Just this past Christmas, we brought the bank to the community. Liberty Bank is a black-owned bank where our campaign donations are going. And this black-owned bank represents what we don't have anymore. We don't have Seaway, which financed so many homes that you lived in and my grandparents lived in. So we need to bring the bank to the 6th Ward. Secondly, we need to make sure that people have access to capital when the bank does come. I talked with Samir. Samir is the deputy mayor for development. And one of the things that he said is that single homes was attractive. $500 per square foot. No development is happening right now because it costs so much. And what's to come is a question mark. And so what we need to do is bring the banks to the blocks, make sure block clubs are funded, so that people know that if I live over here, I have a home and I have capital. Wrap around neighborhoods where you can walk. These businesses need cohorts. Everyone that is a part of our administration will have a cohort connected to University of Chicago and the Urban League so that they're not just on the weekend parade. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Okay, next up. Next up is AJ Kearney. 45 seconds.
So I'll pretend like I'm a young person, and I'll say what attracted me to this community was the rich history of it. The rich history, the depth of the history and the sense of community is what brought my family here, where my husband and I purchased our first home. For me, it is supporting our businesses that are currently here, our small businesses. I make sure that our dollars are going into the businesses that are in our community to help them to thrive. Making sure that those businesses are highlighted so that people know and understand the value of the diamonds we have right here in our community. I mean, we have some excellent businesses here, black-owned businesses, that we need to make sure are highlighted so people know to come to our community, to make sure that they see the vibrant history of the homes, of the people that have lived here over the years. I mean, this is an amazing community for African Americans, and that's what I will focus on.
Thank you, Angel. Okay. Yes. Okay. So another set of 2 questions, and I will start on this side here, and I will start with you, Richard. Will be first. These 2 questions both have a preface, so you all whoever's, sorry, you guys hear me okay now? Yeah. I'm really sorry. Okay, we'll be starting with Richard, and these next 2 questions have a preface that will be for both questions, okay? So I'm just going to alert you both. The 6th Ward crosses many boundaries. It includes only portions of some neighborhoods. It belongs in 3 different police districts. It shares business corridors with other wards. The alderperson will need to be able to accomplish their goals in spite of this. So that's kind of a prefatory comment, okay? So, Richard, first question. How do you see yourself working with the newly elected councils of the 3rd, 6th, and 7th police districts and their 3 police district commanders, as well as with the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability? 45 seconds.
Well, in my experience, I'm an engager. I engage people. So most of the people that you're actually speaking of right now, I've already established relationships with. from the commanders of the districts to the individuals that's running for the council. I am an organizer. I'm the president of the Greater Chatham Alliance, which is an organization that has never been without. And we have always had a place to go because we understood what community meant. We understood how to engage people. We understood how to work together. And that's who I am. I'm an engager. There was a reason why I was able to actually bring the 6th district from being number 17 to being number 2 in the cities, because I have built relationships and I'm good at building relationships. So no matter who was around me or no matter who's sitting at the 5th floor, I'm an engager. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, next up, Kimberly Erdogan. Same question.
Yes. So, having built relationships with commanders of these districts is something that is important. As someone who has walked on 75th Street with the 3rd and the 6th district, as someone who has housed and had the meetings for these districts in my own organization's building, we are going to be able to work with these people. We already have talked to everyone who is running with the councils and have gotten their ideas, because we're going to look to them to be experts in this area about what needs to be happening as far as policing in our community. We want to make sure that the 6th Ward is united. That would be the theme of my administration. 6th Ward united, everyone working together, with the residents in particular having a voice in all of this. But at the heart of it, we have to feel safe in our community, and we will make sure that that happens by building those relationships.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, next up, William Hall.
911 and 311 should not be the only time that we talk to those who are quote-unquote the police. One of the things that I'm looking forward to doing is, number one, bringing back office hours to the alderman's office. Number two, these secret side meetings that we have, so-and-so met, so-and-so, but we don't never know when the meetings are happening. We know only about violence. And this is what's sad, is that we prey on the emotions of you all with these statistics that essentially could be solved if we simply communicate. Where there's no communication, there's always going to be conflict. So sit at the table, we sit at the table. When I'm talking to commanders, you talking to commanders. Because at the end of the day, your blocks are important to you just as much as they are to me. And so what we need to have is a clear line of communication. Number two, a strategy that reflects you and me and all of us. And then number three, where are we going? From the bottom up, not the top down.
Thank you, William. Thank you. Okay, Asia Kearney next.
For me, once again, it's about partnerships, going block to block clubs.
We need to get information to those community associations. There is monies that have been allotted for projects like construction or Rebuild Illinois that has not gotten to you because we don't have the proper information in trying to get into those grants. So that is part of what I see as important for the Alderman's office to do, is to make sure that you are aware and have the needs to be able to get grants and do the type of things you want to do in your neighborhoods.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, on to the next question. And we will start with Herbie. 45 seconds. Okay. Residents do not feel that city services are operating at an acceptable level in the ward. For example, CTA and IDOT facilities are unclean and unsafe. There are streets and sanitation coordination challenges. Residents frequently do not know where to turn. How will you, as alderperson, bring all of this together so residents do not get caught up in the red tape of government? Would you like me to read that again?
Yes.
I think I should. Residents do not feel that city services are operating in an acceptable level in the ward. For example, CTA and IDOT facilities are unclean and unsafe. There are streets and sanitation coordination challenges. Residents frequently do not know where to turn. How will you, as alderperson, bring all of this together so residents do not get caught up in the red tape of government, so that they can navigate through all of this?
So the first thing it's about is having an open door policy. Right now, when we look at our current situation, we do not have an open door policy. I stood in the summertime, our lights went out due to a power grid. We stayed in the dark for 35 days, contacting the mayor's and our alderman's office, and we didn't get any service. Even right now, we still got 2 light poles that are out. So what it needs is that we need to have an open door policy. We need to be able to connect to our alderman. One thing about me is that you didn't hire any assistant, any other person you hired to be your alderman is me. And so when I am your alderman, I will have a number that you can directly get in contact with me to get those services. Also, we just hired a Secretary of State who said that he wants to spread hubs of Secretary office, and so that's what we'll do as well.
Thank you, Kirby. Thank you. Tavares, you're up next. Tavares Briggs.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I can. Residents do not feel that city services are operating at an acceptable level in the ward. For example, CTA and IDOT facilities are unsafe, unclean. There are coordination challenges associated with streets and sanitation. Residents frequently do not know where to turn. How will you, as alderperson, bring all of this together so residents do not get caught up in the red tape of government?
Got it. Actually, I just feel like at the end of the day, as leadership, we have to stand up and be at the forefront, but we also have to be engaged. I know that the residents of the city, they look to leadership, and leadership is supposed to perform a duty, but at the end of the day, one of the reasons I'm standing here is because I decided to put action to my dreams, and I think residents have to do the same thing. We have to be a part of the change that we want to see. So it's easy to look at leadership and say, well, it's not, but at the end of the day, we have to look inward. And when we're all looking inward, we see things that we want to change, and then you can go to this person who should be your leader, and then you say this is things that we demand. We have to demand the changes that we want to see. So at the end of the day, my answer is that we have to work together. We have to work together. It's a collaborative approach. I believe in being accessible. I believe in that we have to have a lot of things that I'm discontent about. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Tavares. Next up, Patrick Brutus.
Past performance is indicative of future performance, and so this is why we have to be very careful who we hire for this job. This is a job. We need someone who can do this thing professionally. Our seniors cannot be at the bus stops waiting for the bus while everybody else is loitering around there. It's unsafe. We've got to clean up our streets. So we've got to talk to the SSA people and demand better. As aldermen, I will not support the budget if they don't improve their performance in cleaning up our corridors. The train station, CTA, we can call these guys. We don't have a vote on the CTA budget, y'all, but we can call these people at the Committee on Transportation. We can call in the president and ask him what the hell's going on. This is a job. We have to have someone who can do this thing professionally. And we have a lot to do, but we have a lot to undo as well.
Thank you, Patrick. Next up, Paul Bryson.
Okay, so the sanitation piece. Everybody calls 311, you get a service request number, you wait to see what happens. So often, the issue is the accountability. You request something, it goes to forestry, it goes to the Bureau of Electricity, things get lost in the shuffle. What I've done, 773-885-7911. My personal number has been available to all of my residents in the 6th Ward for the last 12 years. It'll still be available. So when it comes to accountability, those mechanisms need to put in place, which is what the Alderman's office is for. It's a service office. I desire to have 2 service offices. We have a west side of the expressway, we have an east side of the expressway.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much.
I've got a plan.
Okay, so now we're going to do what's come to be your favorite, yes or no questions. And I have only 3 this time. Okay. The city of Chicago, over a decade ago, dissolved its Department of Environment, leaving a broad range of environmental issues to be dealt with across scattered city departments. Do you support the reestablishment of the Department of Environment? All those in favor, please stand. Okay, it looks unanimous. Thank you. Second question. Will you support improvements of the Brown Memorial Park? Improvements that might include a field house, skateboard addition, and our smart park improvements. This is the yes. And we have another unanimous. Thank you. And finally, third question. Do you support a tuition-free system for community colleges? This is all for yes. Anybody against tuition-free city colleges? Thank you. We have one against Tavares, and we can bring that up later if you'd like. Okay. Now we're going to the next set of 2 questions. And we've touched on this some, but this is on education. Both questions will be involving education. Okay. And this is a preface for both questions. Chicago's 50 aldermen don't have obvious power over city schools. They don't choose who sits on the education board, pick the school's chief, or have any say over closing schools. They don't control budgets, contracts, or any personnel issues. Okay, so we're starting now with Tavares. And here's your question. How can you, as a concerned alderman, still have an impact on the quality and trajectory of schools in your ward? 45 seconds.
And just for the record, I didn't say no to that. I just couldn't hear the question, so that's why I didn't say that. To me, this is something, again, I'm very passionate about. I see some people in this audience that I serve on the local school council with. And the answer to me is quite simple. You have to be present. You know, we looked at some improvements that we wanted to get done at Rebels Elementary School, which is coming. We want to get this outer area fixed. We want to get the playground, and we want to get this area safe. Because at the weekend, people would, leave their bottles, and, our families would have to walk past these things. But we wanted to get our aldermen help, and it was hard to get participation in that sense. So we have to be present. There's 26 schools within this ward, and I think you have to be present for all of them to have an opportunity to sit down and listen and understand what's going on. But presence is the key.
Thank you, Tavares. Next up, Patrick Brutus.
Brutus, punch 53. So, the Rainy Day 1 agenda includes creating a 6-ward education advisory council. You are absolutely correct. The aldermen do not have a vote on CPS. The budget at CPS is $9.4 billion. There's 660 schools. If you do the math, that's $14 million per school is what should be equally appropriate, but it is not, right? So what I would do in my role as alderman is whenever a school needs improvement, they go to the city for tip. Why? I don't know, but that's the deal. That's what they do. I will withhold my support unless my schools are performing. Did you know that 9 of 19 schools in this community are failing? Does that mean our kids are failing? Absolutely not. That means our children are in environments where the school is failing them. They need to be bright. They need to be lit up with technology. Our kids, why is Ruggles not as good as Dixon? We have Simeon in the ward now. Simeon and Inglewood Step should be competing for the brightest students in all Chicago.
Thank you.
We can fix it if we use our leverage as aldermen.
Thank you, Patrick. And next up, Paul Russ.
Yeah, please repeat the question.
There was a preface that had to do with how little control aldermen do have over. And your question is, how can you, as a concerned alderman, still have an impact on the quality and trajectory of schools in your ward?
So first of all, we're clear that it starts at home. Education of our children starts at home. Now, we have established relationships with the majority of our schools in the ward, with the principals, and we continue to work with them. We have to know what their needs and concerns are. We have to be able to help them as best we can from the Aldermanic office. But we are clear, the Alderman's office doesn't have a major input on that. The main purpose for the Alderman's office is serving the residents' needs. It does include our schools, for sure, but we have to develop these relationships with not only the schools, but with the parents of our children in these schools. We need more involvement from them as well, and it'll all work better.
Right. Thank you, Paul. Kirby Bergen's next.
As a middle school science teacher, I know the importance of students receiving equal access to resources. So some of the things that I have came up with is I am a community activist. So at the end of the day, that hat will never leave. When I see something that is not just and not right, that is my opportunity as a leader to speak on it. Another thing we want to do is show up. That's the thing. We have to continue to show up. We can't have an absent alderman. We need someone that is going to show up. Another thing is having political courage. We have to have someone in this seat that is going to have political courage and say the things that no one wants to say. Another thing is a mediator. We need a mediator. Every time we look up, we see CTU and we see the mayor's office going back to back with each other. We need a mediator, a bridge, someone that can be a bridge between the both of them. You can't do that if you're in the pockets of CTU. You can't do that if you're in the pockets of the mayor. So we need an advocate.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to move on to the next sure. We're going to move on to the next group, and this will be a different question, and we'll be starting with you, Kimberly Erdogan. And we're staying in the topic of education. How will you work to strengthen local school councils? Starting in 2024, how will you support and or check the new elected school board? 45 seconds.
So the number one thing is the alderman is the representative of the board and also is the voice of the board. I have to have some type of vision and it needs to be informed by the residents. When the schools are failing, that is something I would take personally. Right now, I don't know what's going on with leadership. I don't know how they hold their head up high with what's happening with many of the schools in our community. Local school councils, number one, we only hear about the election maybe a week before it happens. And that is a problem because there are so many people right here who would want to be on those local school councils because they have such a voice in who gets hired as the principal, just so many different things. So we have to keep those lines of communications going. And to have the first elected school board, that is someone else who will be accountable to me and you. They need to hear from us about what we need to see. We don't have a vote, but we definitely have a voice.
Thank you, Kimberly. Right, next up, William Hall.
One more time, what's the question?
Absolutely, sure. How will you work to strengthen local school councils? Starting in 2024, how will you support and or check the new elected school board?
Well, let's deal with the first question. The one, how do we strengthen the local school councils is the same way that we've been strengthening this school's local school council, be present. Again, using the pain of kids as a political prop is what's gotten us in this place in the first place. The support that we need is a support that's reflective of the teachers that are in the classroom. I pastor a teacher right there. I pastor a teacher right there. So the voice that the teachers have and the voice that's not being heard is simply because there is politics with our kids. And so in order to have a local school council that's present and that's strong, you need people that are present in the school to motivate the parents and to work with principals. As a former principal and the son of an educator, I know that communication is the issue. And when there's no communication between parent and school, community and school, that's where the kids get left when grown folks argue. Secondly, anybody should not run. We need those who represent us and education degrees being elected to the school board.
Thank you, William. Next, Asia Kearney.
Having served on the local school council during the duration of my daughter's tenure at Chicago Public Schools, I see the struggles. I see the struggles alone just getting parents and community people involved. I mean, we had to struggle to complete our LSC board this last election, and that's sad. That's sad because we have so many people in the community that's willing to step up. There are parents who may be able to help but don't know. And like one of the candidates mentioned, getting the word out about the local school council, the importance of the local school council, why it's there, what's going on in our schools. We need to make sure the community is made aware of as stakeholders because it's important. You have to have a voice, making sure that there are relationships between the Aldermanic office and the principals of these schools and the teachers, attending the LSC meetings, anything to do to create a partnership with them to make sure our schools are stronger.
Thank you, Asia. And next up, Sharon Peacham.
This is a very passionate issue for me, so bear with me, okay? Having been elected to the Harlan High School Community Local School Council, as well as the Gillespie Local School Council for 5 terms, Both schools were in dire need of improvement at the time that we came in. Our power to do what needs to be done with the local school council was taken away by the Chicago Public Schools because it was under administrative rule. That should not happen. All schools that have a local school council should have an active local school council. People don't get engaged if your school is not performing and if what they say doesn't matter. You don't need to come to a place and just shake your head 1 hour and then go home. We need active participation in the schools and on our local school councils. As far as the...
Thank you. Stop. Thank you, Sharon. You all do. Okay, next up is Richard Wooten.
Okay, we must understand that engagement and getting community cooperation is going to be very key. It's very key because when we get community organizations to be involved, such as GCA, we have represented every school in the community, and we support, we go out to the schools, we find out what do they need, and we work with them, and we do fundraising, we do drives to get things in place so we can actually help their schools succeed. We have to begin to understand that in that midst, in that circle, we have professionals who's able and qualified to actually go to these schools and run for these positions and ensure that our kids are getting quality education, getting the resources that they need. It starts from within the community. In my office as alderman, I will make sure that my community advisory board that will consist of you all are there, making sure that our schools are doing what they're supposed to do, and we have representation actually filling these here seats. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Okay. Now we're going on to our last question before closing statements. And we're going to make this 30 seconds because we're over. We started late, but we're still a little over. And the question is, okay, I'm still going to mix it up, so bear with me. The question will go to William Hall. We'll start. And the question is, what is one other major issue in the ward we haven't touched on this afternoon? How do you plan to address them? How do you plan to address it during the next 4 years? And everybody will be answering this. I'm just going to move around a little bit strangely.
Yeah, what's one major issue that we haven't addressed is the way in which we're not using our parks. We have Mr. Lewis right here who's actually on the brink of redesigning the park that we need. We have Tooley Park. We have so many parks that are not being used. Why not turn these into Silicon Valleys? Why not bring downtown businesses and these downtown corporations and make the models available for our kids? We are upset that Mathers left. Why not turn back these parks into access centers for our seniors? They have little to no access anymore in this ward. So utilizing our parks for our youth, utilizing our parks for our seniors, where every part is possible to make them global.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm only giving you guys 30 seconds. And next up, Agent Kearney.
One major issue that has come to mind as I've walked door to door is the issue of our vacant homes. The vacant homes and the safety concerns that they draw for families in the community. There's a young man that talked about a home that was put on fire by someone who appears to have mental illness, has a mental illness that is not being dealt with. So mental health in our community, reopening the mental health facilities, making sure that these buildings that are vacant are make sure they're boarded up correctly, making sure that we're trying to find ways to...
Thank you, Adrian. It's painful, isn't it? Because you want to hear more. But what are we going to do? We got to hear everybody. Up next, Sharon. Sharon Beecham.
Post-COVID, I think one of our biggest issues is isolation. Not today. Obviously, all of you all are here. But we have had considerable isolation of individuals who are not being cared about or not being seen. I appreciate Aisha because she says she goes door to door, and that's an important factor. But a lot of people don't let you in. We need to reach out to our communities and make sure that our neighbors are okay. Each and every one of us. We need to be sure that persons we haven't seen are there. We have to be sure that we are doing what we need to do to be good neighbors in a good community.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Next up, Richard Wooten. Yes, I'll repeat it. 30 seconds. What is one other major issue in the ward we haven't touched on this afternoon? How do you plan to address it during the next 4 years?
Quality of life. is one of the issues that we have not really touched on. For the past 12 years, quality of life has been damaged in our community. Over 38 liquor establishments in our community, not one grocery store, not one mental health facility, not one recreational facility for our kids, and a facility for our seniors. Quality of life requires to have an alderman whose doors are open, whose phones will be answered, and who people will serve. We need to make sure that not only the lights are on in our community, but the trees are trimmed, the garbage is picked up. Quality of life is very important. That's the one issue I want to touch on.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, up next, Kimberly.
Richard took mine, but I do have a back. Because we have a lot of issues in our community. I want to figure out why we don't have our churches being supported the way they need to be, and any organization that has a physical structure. For children and youth to have activities the way we had them. I grew up in the basement of a church, doing things, being an usher, never had to pay a cent. Organized sports for children, not having to pay a cent to assist parents so that they can make sure their children have things to do, and also seniors as well.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, and now we move over to Patrick Brutus.
Environmental justice and sustainability is something we did not talk about today. The ward is full of areas where we have overflooded basements in your property because of the catch basins and the sewers. Every time it rains, it pours in your home. All right? When I bought my house, I had the same situation. And, you know, we need to fix that. We need to embark upon a very aggressive, multi-billion-dollar plan to fix our infrastructure here in this community. Your investment in your home is your number one investment. And that's probably why we have a lot of vacant properties in this, where people have left. They've aged in place, and they've left for different, brighter horizons. We got to fix our infrastructure. We didn't talk about that today, but I have a plan on my website you can read.
Thank you, Pat. And next, Paul Price.
Okay, so the availability and access to the alderman's office. Absolutely, we need someone there that you can reach out to. We need to have quarterly town hall meetings. We need to have that availability where the residents and the alderman's office are in constant communication for things that we need and that the residents are pressing to have. So it's a two-sided street. And I can tell you, I will be available, I've been available, and that will continue.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Next up, Kirby Bergens.
So one of the things that I want to tackle is environmental racism. So what we have seen is that African American young boys are 4 times more likely to catch asthma than their white counterparts. That's unfair. One of the things that we want to do is remove those lead pipings at no cost to homeowners. We want to install water meters. We want to connect our schools to solar panels, Wi-Fi in our parks, invest in the rain-ready chattel plan that what Patrick Brutus was talking about, that didn't know all of the information about it. But we want to reduce that sewage backup and talk about Asian infrastructure.
Thank you, Kirby. Okay, Tavares Briggs is up next.
One issue that really wasn't spoken about today that I think is very important and something that I think that we need to have a plan for is criminal justice reform. We have to have a plan for men and people that's been formerly incarcerated. When they come back to our community, it has an impact. We're talking about safety, we're talking about all these different elements, but when I'm outside in the streets and you walk, all you got to do is go to 79th Cottage Grove, and we have to at first acknowledge the issue, which is what I'm doing now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tavares. Okay, wonderful. We are now ready for closing statements, and closing statements will be 90 seconds, and we will do that in reverse chronological order, starting with Richard Wooten. So, 90 seconds.
So when truth speaks, truth be told, that I am the best qualified and the most qualified candidate up here today. Why? Because I problem solve. Why? Because I got results. Why? Because my entire life has been built on working for the people. I'm a servant at heart. United States Army veteran, served in the war, served on the Chicago Police Department for 23 years, helped strengthen community, helped solve crimes in the community. Pastor, entrepreneur. I've done it all, and I'm still doing it. People say, why do you keep on running? Because the war ain't got no better yet. Why do you keep on running? Because it's time for change. Why am I running? Because I'm not a quitter. I'm a fighter. And I will fight for you. So I pray that you help me make it to the Aldermanic seat on February 28th. So you know what to do. Just punch 52.
Thank you, Richard Wilson. Okay, next is Sharon Peacham. 90 seconds.
I think that responsiveness and interacting with your board members is the most important thing about this job. Legislation is important, but hearing from you about the type of legislation you need is more important. That's been my career. That's been my life. That's why I'm here. We have had a vacuum in communication in the 6th Ward for the last 12 years. That needs to end. I believe that I am the one that can end that, and I will pledge to you that I will be accessible at all times to you, for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Next, Asia Kearney.
Thank you again for this opportunity to stand before you. I just want to say that in my years of being involved politically, it has afforded me the opportunity to build relationships, and that's what's important in making sure that the job gets done. Public service is very dear to my heart. Accountability is very important, and I will continue to walk door to door as I am now, listening to your concerns and your issues, and then once I'm elected as alderman, we will be working to get the job done, making sure that I'm held accountable for my actions, for your concerns, and making sure we're working together collectively with all the entities, governmental entities, to make sure whatever resources we need, they are being put in place and we are moving forward and not backwards. I thank you so much for your time. I hope that I can count on your vote. Please stand in line, punch 59. I'll make it worth your time. Thank you.
First of all, I want to say thank you all. It's Saturday. Y'all could have been doing anything else. So could you clap it up for yourself for sacrificing the time? I want to use my time for you. Secondly, you all, I'm humble enough to realize that I need all the help I can get. I've never been an alderman, even though a lot of aldermen are my friends, uncles, and relatives. I've never done this before, and I need all of y'all to do it. To build something around me means it's about me and it's not about you. That's not how community is built. It's built on the voices, the hard work, and the dedication of everybody. And to know my name is one thing, but to let's see our work together. More can get done if we don't focus on who gets the credit. The credit is all of us. We've seen that, signs being taken up from homes, off the block, off of buildings. Don't know me for my name, know me for the work I want to do together. And on February 28th, I want y'all to punch 58 for the future. But before we get to the future, we can only get there one day at a time. Better services, safer neighborhood, global schools, a global economy built one block at a time. I'm your friend, not your enemy. I'm your brother and your servant. Hopefully I'll be your next alderman on February 28th if you punch me again.
Okay, that one died. Thank you, William. Next is Kimberly Egodon. It's getting worse. Okay, sorry. Getting worse. I'm sorry. Say it again. Say it again.
Attorney Kimberly Egodon. All right. And I'm standing before you as someone who has prepared for this position. Lifelong resident of this board, I have seen it disintegrate, but I have not seen the spirit of the people disintegrate. We deserve someone who not only has the vision, but also has the experience and the know-how to do this. When you were upset about Laquan McDonald, I was there to assist you and write letters to insist on a police consent decree coming to our city, and we were successful. When Mercy Hospital wanted to close, I took your voices and said, we're going to make sure that this hospital stays open and we still have a hospital. Anytime there has been a call to action, I have used my platform and my public policy experience to make it so. The schools, they need help. We need to make sure that our children have got a voice. We need to make sure our seniors have got a voice. We need to make sure every resident here has a voice, and I have been your voice. I'm asking for your support because we need someone in this position who not only knows how to do the job, but knows how to work with others to get things done, who knows how to negotiate, who knows what is needed to do to build the bridges and to have the relationships that are necessary. Someone who is ready on day one. And that's what's important for our community, to have a real person in this position who knows how to get things done. My number is 62. If you punch 62, I will work for you. I'm trying to be cute. No. I will work for you if you punch 62 as someone who knows how to do this job. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Next up is Paul Bryson.
Okay, so when we speak of experience serving this ward, I have 12 years of experience serving this ward. I will continue to serve as your alderman. Now, I love the candidates that we have. We got professionals, doctors, lawyers, teachers, preachers. I mean, we got it all. And I love that. But we need someone in this office that knows what this office needs and what the people in the ward need. So, I'm the best candidate of the 11. When you go to the polls, punch 57. And I got one more for you. If you aspire to go to heaven, punch 57. I know that's corny, but don't forget that. So I'm going to definitely reach out to all your neighbors, family, and friends. We need people to come out and vote. Our numbers are terrible. No, I still got 30 seconds. So we need our people to vote. Our last election and the several before, and I know, brother, this is your fourth one. We need to show up at the polls, and we need to make a difference and select who's got your best interest at heart. And I'm telling you, that is me.
Thank you, Paul. Next up, Patrick Brutus.
I don't have a nursery rhyme for you, but I'm not going to take any shots at anybody here, because the ward needs someone with integrity. We got serious problems. We need serious people to solve these problems. This is not a dream. This is not a job. This is not a joke. This is a job. This is a real job. And we don't have the luxury of time with what we need to do in this community. And it's not just Chatham and Park Manor. It's West Chesterfield. It's West Woodlawn, Grand Crossing, West Chatham Park, West Auburn Gresham, Englewood. We have a lot of different neighborhoods in this ward. And we have no time to elect someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Punch 53 for Patrick Brutus.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, next up, Tavares Briggs.
Tavares Briggs. I want to start by saying it's an old African proverb, and it says, the child that doesn't, feel the warmth of, a child that doesn't feel the warmth of the village will burn it down to feel it. I spent my undergraduate days right adjacent down the street at Chicago State University. That's where I learned social services. That's where, as a student government, in my days in Alpha, we would walk the blocks. And we would, engage with the community at the end of the day. To me, this is an election about, for me, character over credentials. There's a lot of great candidates with great credentials. At the end of the day, we got to select somebody that has great character, that works, and has a passion for working with the community and our people. That's what I've done every single day, working with families, working with young people, working with mothers and working with fathers and dealing with those challenges and issues. So I'm not gonna hold you up. If you're looking for the one, punch 61.
Thank you, Tavares. And next up is Kirby Bergens.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are down to the wire. In 9 days, we will start early voting, and in 24 days, we will be in election day. This election is important. At the end of the day, we need to understand that 2/3 of our city council members will be new. And before you go to the ballot box, I want you to understand that there are two types of candidates sitting up here. One that feel that they're politically connected and already elected. We tried that route already. It doesn't work. Then there's me, the people's candidate. The one that wants to bring everlasting effective change to this board. One that is not running to be something but to do something. See, policies like fully funded public school systems, safer communities, affordable housing, and opening our mental health clinics, these are not right versus left policies, but they are right versus wrong policies. And they have the option to come life versus death policies. That's why my campaign is a human rights campaign. We see these issues as human rights issues. And so, if you want to keep hope alive, go to the polls and punch 55.
Say, this group of candidates has been amazing today. Let's give them a round of applause. And we have to also thank them because they rushed here from an earlier event, and they all seem to have their wits about them after being on the stage all day today. I also want to thank all of you for coming. This is important, and I love seeing the room full like this. So give yourselves a round of applause. Now, one little bit of housekeeping before I turn it back over to Christopher, and that is that the candidates, they have agreed to stay a little bit longer. They're going to come down and move out so that you can go up and ask them questions individually. Also, at this time, their campaign literature will be available for you out on the resource tables in the hall. So, literature outside, candidates scattered throughout the room, and thank you.
All right. Hold on, we're not done yet. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I want to, first of all, excuse me, we're not done yet. Let's be patient. Let's finish this out properly like we've been doing all day. First off, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. You all have been this has been an amazing experience. Thank you all for coming to participate in the process. It's very important. Make sure that you go and vote. Make sure that you take these people to task, ask the questions that you want to ask during the meet and greet. Thank you very much. I want to thank candidates, please stay inside. We're going to have everybody meet inside so we're not in the hallway. Please, candidates, please stay inside. Before we go, I would like to thank Catherine Mardikes from the League of Women Voters. I would also like to thank Lakeisha Gage-Woodard. I would like to thank all of our Child United volunteers. I also want to thank our non-Child United volunteers. I want to thank the Chicago Police Department. Thank you very much. We really appreciate to have you here. I want to thank our security staff. Maria Moore in particular, thank you very much. And I want to really thank the NEO staff for coming out on a Saturday and giving up your time to help us through our political process. Thank you very much, NEO staff, Mrs. Knox, Mrs. McGill, etc. I want to thank you for coming out today. Please come meet your Aldermanic candidates. My name is Christopher Hicks. I want to thank Joe Morris, Aisha Humphreys. I also want to thank Mrs. Grace Hicks for her participation in the process to get Neil secure, and everybody else who contributed to help make this a great event. Thank you very much. Goodbye.